Good evening. So what we have here is a 2015 Proton iRiz 1.6 Premium, but this actually came in a stick shift version, meaning it's a manual. And so this is the look of it on the exterior. And this video is supposed to be something of a log towards its restoration, because as you can see, there are a few things that will probably need to be done or rectified due to the age. So now let's have a look on the inside. This tweeter has came off and the cable has also came off, so I need someone to do some soldering to get it fixed. And the head unit is no longer in its place because this was an aftermarket head unit, and we had to take it out, or basically we took it out and we tried to see if we could fix it so that the rear sensor would work again. Because what happens when you change to an aftermarket head unit is that you lose the beeping or your rear sensor functionality completely. So we bought one of these harnesses. This was what came with the aftermarket head unit, which doesn't have canvas, so it doesn't work with the reverse sensor. We have bought it and we had to send that back because no one could figure out what was going on with it. And I guess we're still back to not having a sensor or the functionality of the sensor. So I'm just going to start from the front as to what has been done thus far since getting the car. Just pop the hood. So obviously it's got a new battery because, well, batteries don't last that long, obviously. And we've changed the air filter for the engine. The rocker gasket or valve cover gasket was changed because it would leak somewhere here. And as you can see now, that's already been fixed. Brake fluid, because that not only affects your braking performance, it also affects your clutch performance and your clutch pump. And on this particular unit, or the manuals, the manual iRizes, for all it's worth, you have a clutch pump which is inside of the gearbox, and if that were to go bad, you'd have to take the entire gearbox out. So the cost is going to be, well, not cheap, put bluntly. And the previous owner was kind enough to have replaced the engine mountings, so that's pretty good. We have also done the spark plugs and the coil plugs, because when I did the spark plugs, true to Proton's fashion, it broke. The plug coils broke. So I had to rush out on a Sunday morning to try and see if I could buy the proper ones. And Thankfully, a spare part shop was open. So one of the common issues with the iRiz and the Persona family is that radiator starts to rust. I wouldn't say that it's a design flaw, but more of a standard operating procedure flaw or lack thereof, because you're not supposed to add tap water or mineral water into it, but that's what some people have been doing. It seems to be a universal issue because old school mechanics will still pour in tap water or bottled mineral water, but that's not helpful because it reduces your coolant's ability to prevent or inhibit rust, and that's where your issues start to crop up. So in this case, when I first got it, I did a flush for the coolant, replaced it with premix coolant so that I don't have to add any water into it. And you can tell that the lens of the headlights are pretty yellow, and it's got some kind of minor or hairline cracks all over. So this is what happens when you put tint onto them, like these DRLs here. And this is probably why you don't put tint onto your headlights or whatever that emits light. And over to the back, you can see that this has broken off. This is part of the side skirt, and it's a common issue with the iRiz premiums, regardless of whether it's a manual or an automatic CVT. And right behind this wheel, I've already changed the fuel filter just to let the car have some cleaner petrol. And because you should change the filters from time to time, once every 2 years if I'm not mistaken. Same goes for the coolant and the brake fluid. So we used to have a quad exhaust tip on the rear, and it would be slightly louder than stock, I would believe, but I had to get it removed. And thankfully, because the exhaust job on that previous one was a bit botched, I would say, it would reduce the power output due to how restricted it was, and it doesn't even look nice underneath. From the exterior, yes, it looks okay and it sounds alright. Maybe a tad bit loud for people who don't want loud exhausts. The other issue here with this latch mechanism, it looks broken here. So what would happen is that if you were to close and open it a couple of times, oh, it's stuck, and that's where we are. So the absorbers and the lower arms are probably in a bit of a bad shape, so I'm gonna have to look around for recommendations and see what I can do. And if anyone has any idea as to how I can remove some of this residue from the tape from the previous job, let me know. Just let me know in the comments. I would appreciate it. And inside the car, I already had a dash cam installed. The tint on this car, the ones on the rears are a bit darker. Those at the back are all 0% as far as I remember. And the ones on the front were all replaced, but we ran into a bit of issues because the installers kind of struggled with them. So I had to revisit them because they had dust particles like in between, and this one actually still has it. So it kind of sucks that you pay good money and you get something like this in return. And the other issue that we had with this windscreen was that at some point it was replaced. And when you replace windscreen, you need to have glue in between the windscreen and the body frame. So what ended up happening apparently was that on the left side where that P sticker is, the glue was not adhering to the body panel at all, or the frame. So whenever it rained heavily, it would start leaking water, and water would come into the cabin right here. So thankfully it was just very small droplets, but I'm glad I got it fixed. And some shops told me that we had to fix this stone chip first, because otherwise it might crack and they just wouldn't be held responsible for it if that happened. Thankfully this shop that I actually visited said it's okay and it's not going to affect anything, and they said it's up to you if I wanted to actually repair it before I got it re-glued. And since they said it's not, even after repairing or them adding something onto it to repair it, it's not going to look vastly different, so I just opted to leave it as it is. One way to identify if your car is actually a stick shift or manual is, well, of course you see that manual shifter, and here. So Transaxle tells you that it's a 5-speed manual, and of course you would have things like your side skirts, hibiscus shaped or inspirated rims, DRLs on the front. If you had something lower than the premium, let's say the executive, you would have fog lamps. And the one quirk that I found out about these front headlights is that on the premium you don't actually have parking lights. You know, those T10 bulbs that is usually somewhere here. This doesn't have it, so I believe that it's because of the RLs that we have underneath here. So they kind of double up as your parking light, and according to official sources, only about 500 units were made. I'm not sure if it's just the premium manual, as in the 1.6, or if it spans between all the manuals that they had, because they had eight variants of this iRiz. including the CVTs. I believe it's the 1.3 standard, 1.3 executive, 1.3 premium, and 1.6 standard executive premium. I can't remember what the last one was, but well, the last two. There are two more versions somewhere. And of course the rear had this garnish, and this fog lamp looking like thing is not actually a fog lamp. The stock did not come with this, so it would just be a painted over. It's not a fog lamp either at the moment, it's just a brake light indicator, and thankfully it's road legal, so it's not one of those that's flickering all over the place. So I guess that's about it from my side. Almost forgot, I'm just gonna give you guys a glimpse of it in the dark, and as you can probably see, there's no T10. Just gonna put the mic closer to the exhaust. Something that you guys like to hear.